The smell of ether filled the halls long before the smoke did. Nurses rushed from room to room as patients coughed and gasped for air. It was a crisp morning in May 1929, when life inside the Cleveland Clinic seemed ordinary, until a thin wisp of gray rose from the basement. Within minutes, calm turned to chaos. The hospital, a place meant to heal, became a death trap. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me in the comments where you're rewatching from. I love knowing who's listening. At first, no one understood what was happening. The staff had smelled strange fumes before: ether, alcohol, cleaning solutions. It was the scent of medicine, of science. But this was different. A nurse named Helen found herself clutching a doorknob that burned her palm. She yanked her hand back and saw smoke curling beneath the laboratory door. Dr. John Phillips, one of the hospital's founders, was making rounds when he saw the first flicker of orange. He didn't hesitate. "Evacuate the patients," he shouted. His voice echoed down the sterile corridor. But as doctors and nurses hurried to wheel patients to safety, the flames grew faster, fed not by wood or paper, but by something invisible, deadly, and silent. Deep in the storage rooms, tanks of nitrocellulose X-ray film, highly flammable and packed in metal canisters, had ignited. When that film burned, it released dense clouds of poisonous gas. The air itself became a weapon. People didn't just burn, they suffocated. Helen ran into the maternity ward, covering her mouth with a damp cloth. The babies were crying. She grabbed two, pressing one against each arm, and ran through the smoke-filled hallway. Every breath burned like acid. She could hear coughing, screaming, the metallic groan of collapsing ceilings. But she didn't stop, not until she reached the steps outside. Behind her, chaos unfolded. Doctors worked side by side, some carrying patients over their shoulders, others collapsing mid-run. Firefighters arrived, brave men in heavy coats, but even they fell to the toxic fumes before reaching the flames. Dr. Phillips stumbled out of the building, coughing violently, his face streaked with soot. When he turned back, his heart broke. The hospital he'd built to save lives was now destroying them. And yet, even in his despair, he ran back inside. Someone had to reach the upper floors. Upstairs, Helen searched room after room, calling out for survivors. The smoke thickened. Her knees shook, and every step felt heavier. She found a patient slumped in a chair, barely breathing. With trembling hands, she tried to lift him. But the man's eyes rolled back, lifeless. Her tears mixed with ash as she whispered, "I'm sorry," and turned toward the sound of cracking glass. Down below, the fire raged with terrifying precision, sweeping through corridors like a living thing. No one had ever seen anything like it. The hospital's ventilation system, a modern marvel of its time, carried the toxic gas through every floor, poisoning those who thought they were safe. When the fire was finally contained, more than 100 souls were gone. Patients, nurses, doctors, and even passersby who had tried to help. Among them was Dr. Phillips himself, who never made it out after his final rescue attempt. The city of Cleveland fell silent. Crowds gathered outside the smoldering ruins, clutching handkerchiefs over their mouths. Some prayed, some wept, and others simply stared at the hospital that had once been their pride. But from that silence came determination. Investigators soon discovered the cause. Nitrocellulose film, a highly unstable material, had reacted with heat, releasing toxic gases. The tragedy revealed a dark truth. Hospitals, designed for healing, were vulnerable to their own science. In the weeks that followed, the Cleveland Clinic tragedy became a turning point in medical history. Hospitals across the world began changing safety standards, banning nitrocellulose film, redesigning ventilation systems, installing fireproof materials, and creating emergency evacuation protocols. The lessons written in smoke that day became laws written in ink. Helen survived, though her lungs never fully recovered. Years later, when she was asked why she'd risked her life that day, she answered quietly, "Because we took an oath to protect life." Even when it's burning all around you, her words echoed the spirit of everyone who'd been there, the doctors who ran into the fire, the nurses who carried the weak, the strangers who refused to stand by. The Cleveland Clinic rose again from the ashes, rebuilt stronger, safer, and wiser. And every time its doors opened to a new patient, It carried the memory of those lost, a reminder of what their sacrifice had created. Because sometimes tragedy doesn't destroy, it transforms. It burns away complacency, leaving behind the courage to rebuild better. So next time you walk into a hospital and see alarms, sprinklers, or escape routes, remember, they were written in the smoke of that terrible day. If this story moved you, please subscribe, like, and share this video, not just to remember the past, but to honor the courage that built our safer future.